Whether you play solo guitar, accompany singers, or play in any other situation without a bass player, you need to know how to play walking bass. But it's not enough to just play quarter notes. You need to vary the texture and dynamics, weave interesting lines, and still keep rock-solid time. The good news, it's not as complicated as it sounds. In this video, I'll show you my simple walking bass method with my favorite techniques and textures that I use on every gig, and that you can start using right away. I'm Dr. George, making jazz simple so you can play more and think less. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to keep a solid walking bass going underneath your chords, use a few simple textures to keep it interesting, and play some simple patterns that will work on any tune. When I was in college, I heard a guitarist play walking bass with chords for the first time, and I thought it sounded really cool. So I asked my teacher how to do it, and I was really surprised by just how simple it was. In a previous video, I showed you a super simple walking bass trick using approach notes and note theory, and that's great to add to basic grooves, but you can't play an entire standard that way. In this lesson, we're going to take that further and learn a complete walking bass method. We'll add chord tones and a few scale tones as approach notes so that you've got a solid harmonic foundation that actually helps the soloist's intonation. And it's still simple and it doesn't require a lot of theory. When you learn this, you'll instantly stand out from guitarists who are just strumming. You'll sound like a pro jazz accompanist. So let's get started. Walking bass is moving from one chord to the next, and as the name implies, mostly by step. The most important thing is time. The rhythm's quarter notes, but you really want to dig in and play them with some attitude. Playing walking bass on guitar is simpler than on a regular bass. It's mostly just on the bottom two strings, and you don't need to be a virtuoso. But we also add chords, and for this, I'm using two-note shell voicings. Now, if you already know your shell voicings, great, you're ready to go. But if you don't, I've got a separate lesson that walks you through them step by step. I'll link it up here and in the description so you can grab it below. In this method, we'll play the bass on each beat and then add chords on the up beats of 1 and 3. Next, we'll look at some of my favorite walking bass patterns. But before we do that, if this is the type of content you need, please hit the like and subscribe button so that you don't miss the next video. We'll start with one of the most common progressions in jazz, 1-6-2-5, 2 beats per chord in C major. Now we can walk through this with just roots and fifths. On the 6th string, the fifth is above, and on the 5th string, it's below on the same fret. This works for all major and minor chords anywhere on the neck. Now we'll play the root and fifth for each chord. And you can see we move by step into each new chord. Now let's add the other chord tones, the thirds and the sevenths. These can be major or minor. On the root 6 chord, the major third will be on the 5th string 1 fret lower, and on the minor third will be 2 frets below. So now we have these two shapes, a major triad and a minor triad. Next, we'll add the sevenths. For major chords, the 7th is 1 fret below the root, and then for the minor and dominant chords, the 7th is 2 frets below. This gives us these three shapes: major, dominant, and minor. The root 5 shapes are a little easier. The thirds are above on the 4th string, so we don't really use them that much. So we'll just add the sevenths and end up with these two shapes. Now we can use any of these notes to create a walking bass pattern. Just choose a note that moves by step to the next root, and as it happens, that's almost all of them. And now with the chords. Chords often last for 4 beats. So let's expand the 1-6-2-5 progression to 4 beats each. With all chord tones, that would be leaps, not steps, so our solution is to add some scale tones in between. The basic pattern we'll use has the root on the downbeat. On beat 2, you can use either a chord tone or an approach tone. On beat 3, you want to use a chord tone so that we can play the chord on the upbeat. And then beat 4 will resolve to the next root either by step or from the current root. So now let's look at some patterns for just the 2-5 progression. Now we can make these sound a little cooler and surprisingly easier to play by adding chromatic approach tones. And now we'll add the chords. Now these might take a little bit of practice as you need to change the fingering sometimes. Now once you've got the basic pattern, there are a couple of easy ways to make this even better. Block chords are a great way to break up the texture and add emphasis. This is where the trick that you learned in the earlier video comes in, and I'll often use repeated notes and chromatic approaches with these. One pattern I use a lot is what I call walk-ups. These work great on 2-5 progressions. You play these on one string, root, second, flat third, and then a chromatic approach to the next root. Now I have to share a trick though. To play the chord on beat 3, you substitute the 4 chord for the 2. So here's the progression with the root on the 6th string. And now again with the root on the 5th string. And then you can also do this with block chords. When the root is on the 6th string, we use a diminished chord to approach the target chord. And when the root is on the 5th string, we use a dominant chord. One other texture you can use is to just have no chords at all. Just play the walking bass line. This brings down the dynamics and it lets vocalists be more expressive. So now let's put it all together on the 12-bar blues. I'll use this progression. If you'd like a PDF of this, join my free Patreon group. There's a link in the description down below. Now, there are a couple of other things that you want to consider. As we said before, time is the most important thing. So if you don't happen to play a chord tone on beat 3, it's no problem. Just don't play the chord on the upbeat. And if you're not a step away from beat 4, leap to the downbeat. But one thing to never do is to play the next root on beat 4. It really confuses the time. So when you're going from B flat to E flat, you can't play E flat on beat 4. Comping with walking bass gives your soloist a rock-solid foundation, and it can even make a simple duo sound like a full band. And this is just the beginning. As you get more comfortable with these techniques, you'll start to stretch out the bass lines, vary the textures, slip in fills and little kicks with the chords. That's when it really starts to feel like you're driving the band and not just following along. But it all starts here. If you want things like this, practical real-world techniques that you can use on the stage, that's exactly what we work on inside my Jumpstart Jazz Guitar program. We take ideas like walking bass, comping, building them into your playing step by step on standards, blues, and the kind of tunes that you're likely to see on a gig or a jam, with a practice plan that actually fits into a busy lifestyle. If that sounds like what you need, I set aside a few spots each week for a free Jumpstart Jazz guitar session. In that call, we'll talk about your goals and challenges, I'll listen to you play, and then I'll show you something that'll improve your playing right away. If we both feel like the program is a good fit, we can talk about what working together would look like. And if not, you'll still know what your next step is. There's a link down below in the description where you can book your free session. Just pick a convenient time.